Did you know, since 1985, Crime Stoppers has helped solve close to 8,000 crimes in New Brunswick? Crime Stoppers, 1-800-222-TIPS. That's 1-800-222-8477 or www.crimenb.ca.
Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Today is Wednesday, March the 20th, and it's officially the first day of spring. If you have any chance to argue with me on that, because some people will say it's the 21st, just Google it. You'll see it's the equinox, March 20th. So thank you very much. I've got great guests up for this evening. I also would like to say that this TV show, What Matters Most, is also focused on interesting people, events, fundraisers, anything that's interesting that I need to educate or inform or just put some awareness to for St. John and the surrounding area. So without any further ado, I would like to certainly introduce my first guest. His name is Eric Brunt, and he's a filmmaker. So welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for making the time to be here with me tonight.
No worries.
So, filmmaker.
Yeah.
What kind of filmmaker are you, Eric?
Yeah, so I'm from Victoria, British Columbia.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a little warmer there right now. I'm a little jealous.
Don't tell me that.
But I'm a documentary filmmaker.
Okay.
And I've been on the road for the last 10 months making my latest documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your documentary and what is it about?
So my documentary is titled Last One Standing, and it's about Canada's last remaining World War II veterans.
Really?
There's not too many out there. So it's kind of my goal is to find as many as I can and capture their stories and make sure they're preserved for future generations.
Oh, you know what? That is really wonderful. That's very heartwarming because you're right. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of the veterans around, and there's great stories that need to be told.
So many great stories, yeah.
I know that we have a few photos that we will be showing for that.
For sure.
Tell us a little bit, how do you locate your veterans? How do you find these people?
Certainly. So it's a bit of investigative journalism, trying to find some of them, but I always reach out to the Legions around because there's Legions all across Canada. I've got a very active Facebook page that I'm about once a week I'll post a story on there. And when I'm in a new area, I'll also post that I'm in that area. And you'll be amazed at how many people reach out to me from Facebook. And I've got a website, so I have some people reaching out to me from that. And being on shows like this or any other media I can get always leads to a few veterans or their families reaching out, which is amazing because that means that that's a few more veterans whose stories I'll be able to preserve. So, yeah.
So how did you get interested in the idea of even doing a documentary film with the veterans?
Yeah,
where did that spur from?
Yeah, so my grandfather was a veteran of the Second World War.
Okay.
And he was in the Air Force, and he was actually basically an instructor during the war for 5 years. And interestingly enough, he was stationed in Prince Edward Island for a large majority of the war. So I'm actually going to be heading there after New Brunswick, so I'm excited to see that part of the world. But anyways, my grandpa lived till the age of 95, so he had a nice long life. But when he passed away, I realized that my family had never written down or especially recorded any of his stories that he used to tell us. And he's not your typical veteran in the sense that he didn't go overseas, but he still had so many stories about what Canada was like during those years. And he basically gave up 5 years of his youth to serve for the country. Wow. So there were so many stories just about daily life that he had that I wish we had captured. And so that kind of led me to think, I wonder how many other veterans and their families are out there who haven't preserved their story or, haven't captured it. And I wonder if they'd be willing to share some of their experiences with me. And it was also kind of a journey, a quest to understand a bit more what my grandpa's generation went through. Yeah. So I started interviewing veterans in the Vancouver and Victoria area, and interest started exploding really, and I started getting people reaching out to me from all over BC. And I've actually never really been anywhere else in Canada outside of BC. So I thought, what an opportunity to, one, see the country, two, get to meet some incredible men and women, and three, make a documentary. So I decided I'd try and interview as many remaining Second World War veterans as possible, and set off across the country in May. So now it's March, and it's been 10 months. But it's been incredible, and there's been so many stories along the way that I've been able to capture. And some of them have told me that it's the first time they've ever either been filmed or the first time even telling their story, which is incredibly humbling, because I don't really have a history background. It's just a passion for it, and my background is in film. So it's quite an honor to hear that, and to know that I'm the one that's capturing the story and making sure that it will live on.
I love that. Now, my grandfather was also in the Second World War. He was in the Army, but he is no longer with us. But how can people get involved? Like if there's people watching tonight or whatever night they get to see you on, that say, oh my gosh, I have a grandmother or grandfather or uncle.
Certainly.
How can they get in touch with you so that you can get their story captured?
100%, yeah. So I've got a Facebook page. My Facebook page is it's my name, Eric Brunt, and then media. And I've also got a website, which is ericbruntmedia.com. And thirdly, if you don't have any remaining family members who are veterans, but this is a project you're interested in, I've also got a GoFundMe set up. So that's gofundme.com/LastOneStanding, the name of the documentary. And you have the ability, if you're so willing, to make a small donation, and that goes directly towards trying to reach as many veterans as possible as I make my way to St. John's, Newfoundland.
Awesome.
Yeah, the other St. John.
Yes, yes. Can I ask you, is there one story that one or two stories maybe, let's focus on one.
Sure.
That kind of stands out in your mind?
Yeah.
Of somebody that you've visited over the last 10 months?
Yeah. One story that really jumps out is just kind of because of a personal connection, so I'm going to go with that one. But anyways, this was a veteran who was in Saskatoon, and he was a pilot during the war, and we were talking, and as he's talking, he kind of says this name, and he says Peter Acker, and I kind of second guess it, and I said, did you say Peter Acker? And he says, yes, and I said, Peter Acker from Steenan, Saskatchewan? And he says, yes, and I'm like, that was my grandmother's brother. And he says, you're joking, I've got a picture with him. So he goes to his photo album, and he's 96 years old. His name's Reg, and he goes into his photo album and takes out this picture. And sure enough, it's a picture of 4 men who, it's actually the day they got their wings, so they finally became pilots, which is like a huge day for them.
Wow.
And it's the four people in the picture, and him and my great-uncle Peter. And he says, this photo is really interesting and really prevalent to the war, because out of this picture, the other 2 men in the photo didn't make it back. And he says that's so typical of pilots in the Second World War who went overseas. He says the survival rate was about 50%. So this photo right here shows you exactly what happened if you had a graduating class of how many of those Canadians would be coming back to Canada. So hearing that, and also knowing that he had known my great uncle and told me all these stories about what he was like, really was like, oh wow, it kind of just gave you chills. This kind of personal connection. So that was an amazing story for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now I know that we have a few photos, so if I can actually call for those to come up,
for sure.
Because I believe there's some really, if you want to explain the clip fairly quickly, we can certainly do that as soon as they do pop up. But one thing I would like to also, what is the most difficult part of your project?
Yeah. So. We got
sorry.
Picture? Okay,
yeah, we'll come back
first.
to that. But let's talk about this now.
Yeah. So this is actually in Ontario. Okay. It's at the Air Force Museum in Trenton, and that's Agnes Ward. So Agnes, I kind of love this photo because to me this really represents a bit of the woman's contribution to the war. So Agnes decided she was going to join the Air Force, and this was the time when, for the first time ever, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Army were taking women. So women were going to be involved in the war other than just nurses, which they had been in the First World War. So there's this huge new opportunity, and Canadian women volunteered by the thousands. Yep. And some of these women were actually sent from Canada over to England to do work there. So Agnes ended up in the publicity department, actually, in London, England, and she would be the one who would be receiving basically any news of Canadian airmen, either their accomplishments or if they were missing in action, she would get this news and then, depending where this airman was from, distribute it to like the Winnipeg Free Press or the Toronto Star, depending on where the airman was from.
Okay.
And basically, what's kind of unique about her story is she met this guy while she was training in Ontario, and they started dating. And they were both posted overseas, so they weren't sure what was going to happen to this relationship. And he visited her in London, and she went to see him. And are we missing the photo? Or
yeah, let's just go to this photo here quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is a totally different one. So this one, to jump into this story, this is one of the last survivors of the HMCS Athabascan, which was one of the Canadian ships that was sunk during the war.
Okay.
And what kind of makes this story extraordinary is that, this is Harry Hurwitz, is when they were hit by a torpedo, he had to jump off the boat and was one of only 18 people that were in a life raft together. And during the time, Canadians had dog tags that had their religion written on it. And Harry's religion, he was Jewish, so his dog tag said Hebrew on it. So he knew that if he was ever captured by the Germans, he might be sent in a different path than his other sailors, because, as we know, the Germans didn't think too kindly of the Jewish people. So he's in this lifeboat with 17 of his closest friends. They have no idea who else has survived this shipwreck. And he basically is, he's having to, he has all these things going on, and eventually they're picked up by a German ship, and he has to throw his dog tags into the ocean to avoid detection.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got about a few seconds left, and I just want to make sure that people know that when do you plan on having your film out? Yeah,
so I'm planning to have my film out next year to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the end of the war.
Okay.
You can find out more about that, like I said, on my Facebook page to keep in touch and figure out when that's going to be exactly released.
Okay. Yeah. And quickly, what was one of the most difficult things that you had through your challenge?
I'd say the most difficult thing is you get a connection with these veterans by talking to them, and because they're in their 90s or 100s, they are passing away. So I'd say the most difficult thing is you make some friends, and you find out a few months later that unfortunately they have passed away. But the silver lining to that is I know that their story is preserved, and I was able to capture it in time. So I'm just excited to share that with the rest of Canada.
Awesome. Well, this is really exciting. I'm really happy that you're doing this.
Yeah.
I think it's an important thing for not only our generation, but generations to follow us.
Certainly. That
learn about the veterans and hear their stories. It's certainly so important. So thank you, Eric, for doing this.
Well, thank you, Heather.
And all the work that goes into this. Let me know when it's up and around.
Thanks again for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Our next guest coming up is Jane Cushings with the IODE Women.
Support your local charities and win great prizes by playing bingo on Rogers TV.
That's Spitfire delivery from Coventry, sir. It sounds like air to ground, but it can't be.
Nobody could fly in this suit. Oh, no. He's right. It is a Spitfire.
Hanger.
We've got a delivery landing.
Landing? In this? Lads! Storm landing, sir. Not many chaps would even fly on a day like this.
Thanks, Corporal. Any chance of this breaking up? I got another one this afternoon.
No idea, sir. Ma'am.
179 ferry assignments. I suppose your dream is to break 200.
You know what my dream is? To go home when this is all over. Find a grass strip somewhere in Ontario. Teach flying.
The car is ready.
Gentlemen?
Marian Orr would achieve her dream and become the first woman in Canada to run a flying school.
She's been murdered. And you think I did it?
I've been wearing the same underwear since Tuesday. I can vouch for that.
I think I'm kind of falling in love with you.
Do you want to kiss me?
Someday. Come on, I like looking good, what?
Oh, Mary isn't going to be married right away, is she?
I will have my vengeance. In this life or the next.
Do you have information about a crime that has occurred or is about to occur? This information can help solve crimes, and tipsters always remain anonymous. Crime Stoppers, 1-800-222-TIPS or www.crimenb.ca.
Thank you very much for staying tuned with me. I have now my second guest for this evening. Her name is Jane Cushing with the IODE Women. Hi, Jane.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking time in your busy schedule. IODE, can you explain to me a little bit about who is the IODE and what do you do?
It's interesting that we're following the young man who worked with the veterans. IODE was founded in Fredericton, New Brunswick in 1900 to look after the soldiers in the Boer War.
Is that right?
And
that was just a coincidence I had him on.
Yeah, it was a nice coincidence. and its purpose evolved to helping people who in need through educational support and citizenship programs and service in the community.
Okay.
And so we have continued on 119 years.
Wow.
And evolved, of course.
Wow. Only women, though, right?
Only women. And, you know, when you think about it, in 1900, women weren't even persons.
That's right.
And yet we managed to incorporate as an organization and persist.
Well, congratulations for that.
That's pretty amazing.
So how many communities do you have of IOD groups, chapters?
Golly. Chapters?
Just an
thousands.
Idea. Thousands of chapters all over.
Yeah, all across Canada. And in New Brunswick, we're still very active. We'd like to have more people.
And how do people get involved?
Well, if people want to get involved, they can go to our website.
Okay.
And there's a place there to put your name in.
Okay.
But if you know somebody, ask, let us know. We'd be happy to have you. When I talk about a chapter, that's a group of women in a community that work together on projects. And if there was a group of women somewhere who had a project they'd like to do, and it might be fun to be part of a bigger organization that might support their work, we would be happy to have them let us know, and they could be a whole chapter.
Oh, really?
And their interest, whatever it was they wanted to serve, that would be fine as a project.
Okay.
So there's lots of latitude.
So you would take all age groups. Is there a certain age group that you do accept for members for women?
By the time we get to talk, we're old like this.
Oh, stop.
but I joined IODE when I was about 28.
Really? Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, what role does IODE play in like St. John community right now? What would you do in St. John?
Well, the most exciting thing was recently we were able to have a group of researchers from St. John apply for our 100th anniversary award. Now, that's the 100th anniversary of the national part of IODE.
Okay.
And they won it. And the $25,000 to support the research for the social pediatrics unit. Trying to prevent child abuse is the goal.
Yes.
And so we were really excited because, of course, we contribute along with all the other women across Canada. The money gets invested, and then the income is used, and there have now been 10 awards of $25,000 across the country.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's the kind of group thing we do. We feed kids in Labrador healthy snacks, 1,400 of them in different schools. And again, that's a national project.
Okay.
But right here in St. John, we do breakfast programs. We do healthy snacks.
Really?
We see that kids have treats when they need them in the schools that each of our chapters has schools that they support.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's very broad. And it's funny because a lot of what we do in IODE is for individuals or families.
Yes.
And, of course, we can't talk a lot about that because that's not fair to the people that we're helping. They deserve their privacy.
Of course, yes.
And when we work with hospice or food bank or the hospital or any of those things, often we're timely in the delivery of the funds for a specific need.
Okay.
And so the amount given on that occasion isn't large enough to get in the media.
Right.
If you look at the end of the year, we do about $250,000 worth of service in New Brunswick.
Wow,
and another $50,000 in scholarships to kids in school and university.
Oh my goodness.
But each part of that is smaller than the level for getting reported. And that's okay. I mean, the important thing is the work is getting done.
Absolutely. Well, and this is one reason why I wanted to bring on the IODE group, because I believe you do deserve awareness to what
we appreciate it very much.
Your social, right? Your social group does. Can I mention Twiddlemuff? Is that something that... No, Twiddlemuff is, I'll explain it as far as I understand. It's fabric or knitted, and it has all kinds of like ribbons and buttons and anything that you can fiddle with.
Right, and it's useful with patients who are senior and mixed up, and their hands, they rub their face or they'll rub their arm until they're sore.
Oh.
And with the Twiddlemuff,
it gives them something to do.
It gives them something to do. And one of our members, actually it's my own chapter that was the group that identified that as a possible project, and they have had a lot of fun doing it.
Great.
And it's been well received by the seniors' residences and places like that.
It's very successful, I guess.
Oh, very successful.
Yeah.
But for hundreds of years, 119 years, IODE ladies have been knitting mittens and gloves and hats and sending them to the north to help out there. In St. John, again, we send them to the schools because, when a child comes in the morning, they've probably played a little in the snow and their gloves are wet and their hat's wet. So if you have fresh stuff to put on for recess, that's a help.
Right.
And I know when I was little, IODE stepped in, and one of the first automatic washers and dryers, I'm sure, in the whole city of St. John, went into my elementary school so that kids' clothes could be washed and dried, or the things that got wet at recess could be washed and dried. And that's a very common project that IODE chapters have with their schools. They provide a washer and dryer so that kids can have dry things to wear.
Wow. And so if there is a project that somebody wants to do, can they come to you?
Yep, they can. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll do it. It means if they would like to do it, we could support them, show them how to get started and do that.
Okay.
And then if they wanted to do that under the umbrella of IODE, they could do that. We had a group of women in the city whose work and family life didn't allow them to do what conventional IODE chapters are social. They meet once a month. These ladies couldn't do that because they had schedules that wouldn't mesh. And so they formed a cyber chapter.
Oh, really?
And they do their meeting and planning by email and Facebook.
And you're all over that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that's great.
When they want to do a project, then they have to work their schedules out so they can all be in one spot at a time.
Okay.
But it's working really well. It's just different from the old-fashioned kind of chapter. And that's another possibility for young people who I can't meet once a month.
Right.
But we can make decisions and have good ideas and then execute them.
Yeah.
Without doing the monthly meeting.
Now, for those people who don't understand what the acronym of IODE is, can you please, I believe I know it, but I have said it incorrectly a couple of times, but it's the International, you better tell everybody exactly what that is.
In 1975, at our annual meeting in Digby, we agreed that we weren't going to be called the Imperial Order Daughters of the Empire. We were just going to call ourselves IODE with no periods between the letters. And we've been trying to do that ever since because, really, we still very, very much support the concept of Commonwealth as opposed to Empire and work with that. And for years in schools, we gave special scholarships. We still give scholarships to people who study the Commonwealth at the university level.
Okay.
So it's not that we're not proud or nationalistic, but IODE sort of gives a more modern look, and we really have evolved over the years. We're not the same as those ladies that set out to support the Boer War veterans. But, if you look around the community, there's so many things that are part of the fabric of the community that IODE did. Many of the cenotaphs that we go to on Remembrance Day were paid for and built by IODE ladies.
Okay. We'll come back to that because
Okay,
I know
sure.
about the cenotaphs myself. So there's a photo now that's up on the screen for people to see. Can you explain that photo for a moment?
Sure. That was the 100th anniversary grant.
Okay.
And that went to Dr. Sarah Gander, who's seated front right. And that's our national president, Bonnie Reese, who came from Ontario to be present for the presentation.
Okay. What's Bonnie wearing? The dark?
She's in the blue.
In the blue, okay, in the front.
And our provincial president, Donna Cole, is back behind Dr. Sarah Gander.
Okay, in the black suit?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think beside her is Kate Flood.
Okay.
And then Stephanie Fox and Regional Hospital Foundation.
Okay.
And I guess the other one would be Sarah Campbell.
Okay.
And
very good.
I mean, it was great that we were able to
do that.
Well, to have it come, I mean, to New Brunswick, you put your money. Sometimes you put your money into these national projects, and in the back of your head, you're saying, "Yeah, we'll never see that."
Oh, yes. But
you know, that's a natural reaction. Mm-hmm. But IODE is an organization where you do get to see it,
that's great.
That's important. That's one of the trusts we keep with our members.
So do you have a project coming up, Jane, that you can talk about?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We're really excited because St. John is hosting the National Annual Meeting at the same time as the New Brunswick Annual Meeting.
Oh.
And we will be getting together the end of May at the Delta Brunswick.
Oh,
and
cool.
People will come from all across Canada. And we celebrate all the work we've done. As I said to you, you don't realize how much until you add it all up, and you realize that just in New Brunswick you did $250,000. Well, when the whole organization comes together, it's a lot more than that.
Right.
And we're going to have two really good speakers, and the public would be welcome to come. One is Dr. Sarah Gander from the Social Pediatrics Unit, and the other one is Dr. Erin Schreier, who's going to talk to you about early childhood ed.
Oh, yes, the education.
And she would be Saturday, and Sarah would be Friday. And if people wanted to drop by in the afternoon, they would be welcome to listen to our speakers, and it would give them a chance to see us in action.
Okay, and is there tickets for that?
No, they could just come.
They just come?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd be happy to have them join us and see a little bit of what it is that we do.
Okay, and what time is that again? And what day?
Friday afternoon.
Okay.
On May the 31st.
May 31st.
And June 1st in the afternoon on Saturday. And the other exciting thing happening on Saturday afternoon, at our annual meetings, we have a program called Share a Story, Bring a Book.
Okay.
And so people bring books for kids 0 to 5.
Okay.
And last year, London, Ontario had 400. We're hoping to beat them. And they will be donated to early childhood centers here in St. John.
Excellent. Thank you, Jane, so much for being here with me. When I have some time in my life, I will certainly join the IODE Women. I think it's really important.
Great. Thank you.
Hold me to it.
I will.
Thank you so much. Please stay tuned for my next guest is Joshua Thompson, and he is here to talk about something really interesting.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on her cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
It's the baking brawl to settle it all. Buddy Velastro, the cake boss,
people want to see who's the best,
will battle his rival Duff Goldman, the ace of cakes.
I can't believe that's a cake.
I am twice the baker.
Duff has no idea who he's going against.
This is going to be a real competition.
Who's the undisputed king of cake? Buddy versus Duff. New episode Sunday at 10 on Food Network. Now in free preview.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the community billboard.
More than half of tips reported through the Crime Stoppers program are now reported online. Information about unsolved crimes, local advisories, and how to report tips anonymously can be found at www.crimenb.ca.
Thank you so much for staying tuned with me tonight. Today is March 20th, the first day of spring. I am now with Joshua Thompson, my third guest for this evening. Hi, Joshua.
Hey, Heather.
This is your couple appearances, right? This is your fourth.
Fourth time, actually.
I know,
yes.
but you're here for every time you're here for something completely different, which is amazing.
You've been very kind to host me.
Well, you're a busy guy. So we're here to talk about CANZOT.
Yes.
International.
Yes.
Association.
Exactly.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, it's funny you mention about it being the first day of spring.
Yes.
And as we know, spring's about renewal and change.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today.
Okay.
And this is actually an organization that I've been with for 4 years this month. And so CANZOT International, it's the world's leading nonprofit organization advocating freedom of movement, foreign trade, free trade and foreign policy between Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand.
Okay, for those of us, myself, what does that mean in layman's terms? Can you tell me that?
Yes, well, the Commonwealth of Nations. It is a collection of countries, 53 member states.
Okay.
And of course, the Commonwealth has been around since forever.
Yes.
As long as we've known. And Canada is a part of that, makes up nearly a third of the world's population. Now, within the Commonwealth, there are ones known as Commonwealth realms. They're the ones where Queen Elizabeth II is the head of state.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And CANZOT, the idea of CANZOT consists with Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand. And they're known as the Big Four.
Okay.
So it's honoring that old tie of the Commonwealth and I guess introducing it for the future, for the 21st century.
Okay, so that means I can go to these countries, live, work, and play.
Exactly.
Without having to have parameters of you're only allowed to be here for a month,
Exactly.
6 months, whatever the work terms are.
And you being an esteemed TV host, if you wanted to go host a show in the United Kingdom,
I would love that.
then you have the means to do so.
Okay, well
So
that makes sense.
Yes, it honors that old Commonwealth tie that we've shared for decades.
Okay.
And it's because a lot of people have wondered, what's the purpose of the Commonwealth? What makes it still relevant?
Right.
Well, it's always been there. So this is a rebirth. It's a way to give people my age and younger an idea of the future, of how the Commonwealth can benefit us.
Right.
And it's something that, the Commonwealth represents so many good things in the world. Good governance, health, environment, helping people, encouraging youth, all those things.
Okay. So can we explain your pin for
Sure.
a moment? Because
Yes.
I noticed that it really predominated on your lapel there.
Yes, well, actually, when I was 19, 20, I lived in New Zealand.
Okay.
And that was the first time I moved
Not
away from
19,
home.
20. When you were 19 and
Yes,
20.
exactly,
Okay.
yes. I moved there when I was 19.
Yes.
And so it was my first time I moved out of home, and I'd been there twice in high school with my parents, and I loved it so much, I wanted to go back. And so I went and I lived there for a year.
Okay.
And actually, this pin's I got this when I was 14, so that was the first time I went. And because of what we know happened in New Zealand this past week, a very tragic event.
That's right.
I guess that's my way of showing my love for, as they say in New Zealand, aroha.
Right.
That's the native language for love.
Nice.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of show my love for CANZOT and for New Zealand and Canada.
Excellent. Excellent. So why CANZOT, Josh? Why did you inspire the interest to this?
Well, when I was looking on CBC one day at the news, and I'd seen that there was someone by the name of James Skinner. He's our executive director, and at the moment he's based in Vancouver. And he was promoting the idea of, it was first called the Commonwealth Freedom Movement Organization. And I seen that, and of course I was all over it. I said, well, I need to know about this and what this is about. So I emailed and I kind of explained my story. I lived in New Zealand, dealt with immigration.
Yes.
And I said, I'm very pro-Commonwealth. And they got back to me and they said, well, we'd like to have you come aboard. And they were looking for representation on the East Coast.
Oh, good.
And of course, I was in New Brunswick, so that
Perfect.
it kind of ended up that way. So I've been representing Eastern Canada ever since.
Of course you are.
Yes. And
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a true honor.
Yes.
Yeah, it really has been a true honor. And I guess for us is that how it really got started was there's a petition we have online.
Okay.
And it now has over 270,000 signatures.
Really?
So this is worldwide.
Okay, so if I want to sign that petition, so the petition really basically says, I want this free trade opportunity.
Exactly.
In a nutshell.
Exactly.
So how do you sign it if it's online?
Yeah, you would go to our website, canzac.com.
Okay.
And it is right on there.
Okay.
And you'd find the link to it on our website. It's prominent on our website.
Okay, so you go to the link, and then what do you do? And
then it'll take you to the website called change.org.
Okay.
And it leads you right through. It's pretty laid out, very simple, explains what CANZAC International is all about, and it takes you right where you can sign.
Really?
And it's actually the most viewed petition in history on change.org.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it's making history again.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
It's been presented to the 4 parliaments a number of times.
Okay, and why were these countries chosen for the group of CANZAC?
Right. These are actually known, and this is a question we get a lot.
Yeah.
These are known as the Big Four. They all share the same majority language, same sovereign, same Westminster-style parliamentary system, same common law legal system, same respect for democracy, human rights, and rule of law. So those similarities are what make those the ones, I call them the pillars, the Big Four.
Okay.
The ones that are kind of the ones that can start off this movement. Because, of course, there's the prospect of inviting other member states.
Sure.
But because these 4, and of course being some of the most diverse countries in the world, that is basically how we can introduce the idea of CANZAC and then go from there.
Okay. So with this, I call it a movement, I would suggest, with CANZAC.
Yes.
How can, I know that the general public would be certainly supportive to sign the petition. How long, or can you give me a timeline of how many signatures do you require, and can you give me a little bit of information on that? Like why sign the petition?
Basically that is showing support. That is showing support to send it to the parliaments.
Okay.
And we just keep growing. There's some days I sit there and I look at the petition and I count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it racks up minute by minute.
Okay.
And so basically, so right now on the screen, what we see, this is the public support for CANZAC. So Canada is 76%, Australia is 73%, New Zealand is 82%, and the United Kingdom is 68%. Now these stats were gathered from a petition, a survey that was done online, and this was done with over 13,000 people.
Wow.
Yes, and I will mention while we were on that topic is in Canada there was actually a separate survey done with Quebec, and there was support with 63% in Quebec. So surveyed over 2,500.
Wow. People
in Quebec are for CANZAC.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, yes. So that was a very, very interesting statistic with the history that we have with Quebec. That's the majority.
Okay. So where do you want to take this from here? Now that we're discussing it on public television
for
here,
sure.
So
yes. Well, basically, and also to keep in mind that these countries, there was something that I read online. The global media company Forbes actually ranked the CANZAC countries the best for business, and they all ranked in the top 11 out of 139. So these are just some stats that you can really digest. And actually, last year in August 2018, it was adopted as the official federal party policy by the Conservative Party of Canada.
Interesting.
So with the federal election coming up this year, keeping that in mind, the Conservative Party of Canada has adopted this as federal policy, the idea of CANZAC.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow, so the Prime Minister is
Yes,
for
he
this?
is, Andrew Scheer. And yes, Andrew Scheer, Conservative Party of Canada, some other notable names, the British Union and Sovereignty Party, that's a Scottish unionist political party, Boris Johnson, the former Mayor of London, Australian Taxpayer Alliance, Eric Abetz, he's a Liberal senator for Tasmania in Australia. And Winston Peters, he's the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand and Minister of Foreign Affairs.
And these are all supporters?
People of CANZUK, yes.
So are they seeking out more supporters and more, I would say, more stronger names, leaders? Is it aggressive that way?
It grows, like it's kind of continually growing.
Okay.
And with the Conservative Party of Canada, that was a big one, with them taking on this as official federal policy. And of course, yes, and as I mentioned before, I lived in New Zealand.
Okay.
And of course, we can see up here, so more UK expats. So technically, I would have been an expat. There's more UK expats living in Canada than all those countries that were listed on that picture.
Is that right?
Yes, and of course, me living in New Zealand, I was an expat, so that was another really cool statistic that just to show, like, the movement of between these four countries.
Mm-hmm.
It already happens. You know, people, it's just, like I say, it's one of the big four. It's four of the most diverse countries in the world.
Right. So what does this mean if this passes, and where do you see the opportunity go? Like,
endless.
In the best world, what do you think?
Endless possibilities. It'd be good for business. People would be able to go and start businesses in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone, like I say, if you wanted to start a TV show in the United Kingdom,
I just go.
You could go, exactly. And it's just honoring that age-old tie of the Commonwealth.
So it's like, instead of freedom of speech, it's freedom of movement.
Exactly,
and
right?
Freedom of
yes.
travel.
Yes.
And freedom of everything.
And free trade, that's the big one.
And living
free
there
trade.
too, right?
Yes.
So free trade.
Yes, between the four countries, arranging free trade. And, you know, with the events that have happened in the world over the past few years, having an alliance such as this, I think, would really be beneficial for these governments, and especially for the age-old, like I say, Commonwealth. For business, absolutely, this is something that I find is a good direction to go. There was another statistic with the U.S. News and World Report. That's an American media corporation based in Washington, D.C. The CANZUK countries, these were ranked as best in the world, all ranking in the top 13 out of 80. Canada was second, UK was fourth, Australia was seventh, and New Zealand was 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are all recent statistics, just to show that these four countries are, you know, they're high up on the list.
Right.
When it comes to prosperity, business, culture, environment.
Right. Well, not to get you on the hook, but so the U.S. is not part of this yet?
No, unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not. We'll just put a little humor on that, I guess.
Right.
Yes, nothing against anybody. I just thought I'd ask. So this is really great. I'm really impressed that you're taking this on. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is history changing.
Yes, for the world. For the world.
For the world,
exactly.
Yes. So if somebody wants to talk to you about it, how can they get in touch with you?
Yep. You can reach me at joshua@canzukinternational.com.
Mm-hmm.
I can also be found through our website.
Yes.
Under our team. You have any questions, please do email me. Like I say, sign the petition. That's the big thing.
That's what you're looking for.
Sign the petition, and then share it on all social media platforms. Because the more the word gets out there, that's what this is about. And it grows by the minute. And if you go onto our website, you can actually, we have this letter right here.
The letter, yeah.
Yep. And this is a template that we made up, so you can send it to all of our MPs.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely get them on that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for being here.
You're welcome.
And please stay tuned. We will be back with Jillian Nadeau about Uncorked Tours.
Mr. Boudry, my name is Mary Travers, but he called me La Bolduc. My daughter Denise. I came to record a song.
But you're not well known, Mrs. Bolduc. You've never recorded before.
Oh, well, gotta begin somewhere, huh?
I suppose your accompanist is not a professional player.
Oh, Denise can play.
Sorry to say, we have no masters left now, Georges.
Oh, I always keep a dozen in stock, boss.
You're aware that recording costs a lot.
Here's $20.
That's a working man's salary for a month there, Mr. Baudry.
Well, what do you say we begin right now?
Oh, let's go.
Mes amis, je vous assure que le temps est bien dur. Il faut pas se décourager. Ça va bien vite commencer. De l'ouvrage, il va en avoir pour tout le monde.
Mary Travers had a hit right in the middle of the Depression. She went on to sing for princes and presidents, but to her fans, she would always be La Bolduc.
Support your local charities and win great prizes by playing bingo on Rogers TV.
They found love online with a convict.
I did 18 years in prison for robbery.
And now that they're being released to the outside, is it true love?
We're destined to be together.
Or just another con?
He knows how to work her.
Get away from me!
Done with it!
Get this mic off me now! Love After Lockup. Season premiere, Monday, April 1st at 10 on TNE. Now in free preview. Catch up on Season 1 now on TNE On Demand.
Did you know, since 1985, Crime Stoppers has helped solve close to 8,000 crimes in New Brunswick? Crime Stoppers, 1-800-222-TIPS. That's 1-800-222-8477 or www.crimenb.ca.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. I'm now with my last guest for this evening. Her name is Jillian Nadeau, and she's with Uncorked Tours. Hello, Jillian.
Hi, Heather.
I'm so glad that you're here. And look what you brought, lovely
I'm
presents.
so glad that I'm here.
You're the celebration to my end of my evening. Woohoo. So, Uncorked Tours, can you tell us, what is Uncorked Tours, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So Uncorked Tours is a food and drink experience business, I guess.
Fantastic.
So we do a handful of daily tours that are available from May 1st to October 31st, focusing on New Brunswick wine, beer, spirits, history, culture, people, places, and all the goodies in between. And of course, we have a few sips along the way to make sure it really gets stuck in there. We want to make sure you remember everything, right?
Is there like a test at the end of the tour?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Stay straight.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. I think that's amazing. So you developed this, did you, originally?
I did, yeah. So Uncorked Tours started back in 2013 when I first moved here to St. John. I'm a New Brunswicker, though, so don't worry. Yeah, no.
You're a return of
I'm an NB transplant.
I like that. I like it.
And so we started originally as a winery tour company, focusing on the New Brunswick wineries. But by the second year in business, I realized there was really an opportunity to look at the uptown core here in St. John and start visiting some of those kind of restaurants and bars and breweries and celebrate the food and beer that's being produced as well. So we kind of blew everything out so that we could have wine and beer and spirits and cider. Yeah.
And I noticed that, and I'm always positive to the uptown core of St. John because there's so many beautiful restaurants, quality wineries, or I shouldn't say not wineries, but beer spots, like all the like they're all, you know, what they call those
brew pubs.
Well, brew pubs, yeah, microbreweries,
beer bars, microbreweries.
Yes, like St. John is really starting.
Good places to drink is what we call it.
Okay, yes, it's a great Friday night place, Saturday weekend.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. So, do you do the tours yourself?
So I do some of the tours, absolutely, but I have a team of guides that works with me.
Okay.
So we do tours 7 days a week. We do 3 or 4 tours a day. That would get to be a little bit too much, and even though our guides don't drink as much as our guests, it might be just too much to do. So, so yeah, I absolutely have a team of guides, but our wine tastings, our in-home tastings, that's all me. I do all of those.
You do in-home tasting? What is an in-home tasting? Tell me that.
Well, let me tell you.
Is it like what I see here?
It's kind of like what you see here. So I realized pretty early on that winery tours, while absolutely awesome and a great way to spend a whole day out and about, can be too long sometimes for some people. We're all busy and we may want to try the wine, and our wineries are spread out here in New Brunswick. We don't have those clusters yet like we see in some other regions.
Right.
So the in-home tastings came out of this desire to take people on a tour of the province in their glass.
Oh, very cool.
So we are able to visit many different wineries that we couldn't get to in a vehicle, all in the comfort of your living room. So for example, today I brought a white wine from Mott's Landing Vineyard up in Cambridge Narrows and a sparkling rosé from Magnetic Hill Winery down in Moncton. So we would never be able to visit those two on a tour.
No, that's amazing. I love that. So Uncorked Tours, where do you see yourself going with the tour business? of what you're doing? Because you do cruise ships too, is that right?
Yeah, so we've ended up working with many different partners. We don't just do our daily tours. We also work with Discover St. John. We work with the province of New Brunswick. We actually help with their marketing in order to get some great media pieces. I don't know, some of your viewers had probably seen some of the Reader's Digest articles or the Sun News articles and that sort of thing. So we work with the different marketing agencies to promote St. John and to promote New Brunswick. We work with shore excursion companies to offer cruise shore excursions, and we work with inbound bus companies to offer special tours for their guests as well, so that they can get a tasting on a smaller time frame.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I like that. If somebody wanted to book a tour, how do they go about doing like, do you have to have a certain amount of people?
Yeah, so
how do they find you?
Yeah, so all of our tours are bookable online.
Okay.
You can actually see the schedule right through to the end of 2020.
Wow.
Right now, yeah.
You're booking tours already for 2020?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Yeah.
So people can go on, and we have our 3 flagship tours. We have Uncork St. John, our namesake tour, which is wine, beer, cider, spirits, history, architecture, basically the whole shebang, an intro to New Brunswick. We have 150 Years of Beers, which is our brewery tour and history.
Oh, yes.
And then we have a brand new, started last year, Bay of Fundy seafood tasting tour.
Oh, wow.
So we branched out a little bit from the alcohol scene. I was getting the feeling that there were 1 or 2 people that didn't want to drink, but they really wanted a lobster roll.
So they're on the tour.
So they're on the seafood tour. Yeah, absolutely. And then private tastings. If you want to book a tasting, we don't just do wine. We'll do beer tastings, craft beer tastings, as well as cocktail tastings made with New Brunswick spirits.
Oh, wow.
And the best way to book those is by sending an email to our info page. So info@uncorkednb.com, or just using the contact form. And that way we can customize it as the guest wants or as the customer wants.
Now, I noticed that uptown we do have some, I think it's like hopscotch. So we have whiskey bars and different things. Are you involved with those as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have about 15 partners in the uptown that we work with regularly.
Okay.
We have some real anchor partners in Happiness Wine Bar and Big Tide Brewing. I mean, they have been supportive of what we're trying to do for the last 6 years. But absolutely, we work with Hopscotch, Picaroons, Ale House. I mean, I could fill this entire segment with the list of people we work with. And for groups of 8 people or more, we can start to customize those experiences. So, I mean, I don't know, if you have a gluten-free group, we can customize that, or someone who's maybe interested in development. We've done development tours where we take people into different apartments and development areas in the city and do our tastings in those unique venues.
Oh, wow. You've got really interesting aspects to this.
We're all over the place.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Do you do kitchen parties too?
Yes, that's what the tastings are.
They become the New Brunswick kitchen party.
Yeah. Don't try to host your own tasting. Just hire Uncorked Tours.
That's amazing. Of course, now that will happen. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
So, other than those tours available, what drives you to do this? Like, to do the tours and everything? Because you must be going all the time, and you're organizing your scheduling, and
There's a lot of that. Yeah. I generally like people.
That's good.
As a rule, I like people. And so I really wanted to create an experience that would allow visitors to St. John and visitors to New Brunswick to really get a taste of who we are. I feel that in New Brunswick, while we are getting better, we tend to be quite quiet. We don't celebrate or shamelessly promote ourselves enough. Yes. And that's what I wanted Uncorked Tours to do. I wanted to be able to share the flavor of the province and the culture. You know, we are hospitable, we are very friendly, but it's not an act. I mean, that's just actually how we are. And people are still very, very surprised by that. They know that coming to the East Coast, they're going to be welcome. They know they're going to meet friendly people.
Yes.
But they're still surprised every time it actually happens. They think it's marketing. They think it's a tagline that we've got out there. They don't actually believe that people are as authentic, I guess,
welcoming
as
and
we
friendly.
are.
and sincere.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. One of the fun things we do with our guests is they each get their own pinwheel. So if you ever see me around town, I've usually got a big multicolored pinwheel.
Yes, I've seen you walk, and you hold it up.
Absolutely.
Like a tour guide would.
Like a tour guide, yeah. And so each of our guests actually gets their own pinwheel pin.
Oh.
And they're able to keep that. And that allows our partners to recognize that these people have been on an Uncorked tour, and it allows our partners to approach them and be even more friendly and hospitable. And so guests who take our tour early in their trip or early in their vacation are able to go back to those venues and actually continue that relationship with the bartenders or the servers or the art gallery owners or what have you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that that you probably have quite a collective group of people. Do you find that the people that book your tours, are they from away or are they residents of New Brunswick?
There's always a good mix. We see a lot of groups that come in the kind of visiting friends and family. So we've got one local who's here in St. John, and their friends or family are coming to visit, and they've been waiting to do something fun.
Right.
And they'll bring their friends and family. So we'll have that mix of visitors from away, as well as locals who maybe have lived here for decades or who have just moved here. And it's always the locals that are fun because they'll start the tour saying, oh, this tour's for them. This tour's for them. I live here. Don't worry about me. And I go, you know, I'm going to tell you at least one thing that you didn't know. I guarantee it. And sure enough, within 15 minutes, they're getting into the tour, they're learning new things, they're learning things about the city, the street names, the arrival of the Loyalists, Fort Latour, all those different things. And it's the locals that really get excited because they're the ones that can walk back along that route and have those memories come back to them pretty easily.
Wow, that's incredible. I really appreciate the fact that you put that much effort into not only just the entertainment side, but the educational side of what they're learning on their tours.
Yeah, and that was always one of the kind of founding tenets of Uncorked Tours was that, yes, we wanted to show you a good time. We wanted to give you some drinks, some good drinks, but we wanted to teach you something too. So I was joking about the test. There's no test.
No, I was just kidding as well.
But no test, and I don't expect you to remember it all. But yeah, we really tried to bring that educational piece into the tours as well.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you're an amazing person, Jillian, and I think that anybody who gets a chance to take on the tours will certainly walk away with the warmth of New Brunswick and the friendliness that you certainly pass over and give to these tours. So definitely educational for sure.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for being with me tonight.
You're welcome.
And I would like to also thank our volunteers for Rogers and the staff that are with us. I would also like to thank Jillian. Thank you very much, Jillian. Josh Thompson, Jane Cushing, and Eric Brunt. And stay tuned for our next show. Cheers to that. Thank you.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
When you become a Rogers volunteer, it's always an opportunity for everybody to come together and try different things that they've never been able to do before.
What I've learned here is different skills that I thought I would never even be interested in learning.
By being here at Rogers, I can learn all these different things that will help me be stronger.
Working here as a volunteer is a good way to get to know your community. It's a good way to learn how to work as a part of a team.
They're people from our community, so they know and they have a heart for our community to step outside of our comfort zone and do more.
Don't be afraid, because this is where you're going to gain the most valuable experience that you can use in your future.
I encourage everybody to be a volunteer at Rogers TV because not only do you grow professionally, you grow personally as well.
This is Rogers TV, New Brunswick.
I took this picture of my wife when she was near death, waiting for a liver transplant. And this is her now.
Hello, I'm Lise Breckenridge. A liver transplant saved my life.
What can I say? You be the judge.
Your donation will help Canadians understand the importance of pledging to be an organ donor.
And it will help save the lives of so many more.
As it has for us.